Hi, I'm Sala Giovanni from the University of Liverpool, and I'm going to talk about the whole set of studies regarding chess and educational outcomes. My talk will address several points, especially beyond the whole set of studies regarding chess and education. Also, the analysis of the two studies just presented, Mr. Jerrim's study and Mr. Argentin's study. And I'll make some reflections and some future recommendations for this field. First of all, if we take a look at the whole look at the whole literature of chess and educational outcomes, we see that in a meta-analysis by Sala and Gobet, which reviewed the 24 studies, we found positive effects of chess instructions on youngers' math and cognitive abilities. What's a meta-analysis? Basically, a meta-analysis is just a statistical procedure allowing us to merge the studies to get a quantitative effect representing the whole effect of a whole set of literature. And basically, put simply, the effect sizes we found regarding chess and educational outcomes are quite positive and highly significant. So, long story short, if we consider the whole literature, chess does exert a positive effect on math and some cognitive abilities. However, we've got to, because we are scientists, we've got to play devil's advocate and see if these positive effects are due to some kind of quality design related issues. First of all, randomization. Randomization is an important procedure in control trials because it allows to create groups totally equivalent at baseline, because basically randomization is just put randomly participants in treatment or control groups. So possibly the effects we've observed were due to lack of randomization, and so they are possibly just statistical artifacts. However, we carried out additional statistical analysis on that, and we found no effect of lack of randomization on the effect sizes, which means that the effects occur regardless of this specific design-related issue. Now let's have a look at the studies which had randomization in their designs. We found 11 studies, 11 randomized control trials, and in most of them, 8 out of 11, researchers have found positive effects of chess ability, of chess treatment, chess instruction. However, there is another point, which is a really aching point in this literature, which is the problem of placebo effects. Well, basically, we know that in education, most of the treatments work. Most of the treatment, if studied, even with the randomization, so with a good design, provide good effect sizes on academic variables, on cognitive variables, and so on. But the problem is, if almost everything works, probably nothing works because there is some kind of artifact or some kinds of design-related issue, such as placebo effects. So, regardless of the type of treatment, if I take a bunch of pupils and I treat them with a new exciting activity, probably I'm going to get some effects. But not because of the specific features of that treatment, but just because if pupils have fun, if pupils are motivated by a new activity, then they just have temporarily good effects on their academic achievement and other related cognitive abilities. This is a real issue, not only for the field of chess and education, but also for the field of music instruction, for example, and also for the field of working memory training. In both these fields, we have found no effect when placebo effects were controlled for. So, let's have a look at the studies controlling the study of chess and education, in the field of chess and education, controlling for placebo effects. Well, just 3, which is not enough to conclude anything with a good standard of reliability. Especially because these studies found mixed results. The study carried out by Fried Ginsburg found, for example, no effects on cognitive abilities. The study two studies carried out by me and some colleagues found medium or robust effects on mathematical achievement, but it's still not enough to have a reliable measure and a reliable proof for the field of chess and education. So, I think that at this point we should ask ourselves why is chess supposed to provide any benefits to children's academic achievement, especially because the transfer between domains only loosely related to each other, just like, I don't know, chess and math or music and math and so on, is quite rare. So the transfer of abilities across different domains is quite rare according to our available evidence. But however, we can say, for example, that chess involves domain general cognitive abilities such as planning, concentration, spatial ability, and so on. And these cognitive abilities may just generalize to other domains such as real life skills or academic achievement and so on. Long story short, chess may be just a tool for cognitive training. So, the answer we could say, the answer we could provide to this important question is, okay, chess is a cognitive demanding task, because it is a cognitive demanding task. Then chess trains cognitive ability. Thus, chess is a very good cognitive training tool. Unfortunately, there is a sparse evidence for that. Not because someone found evidence against this hypothesis, but because basically this hypothesis has never been tested systematically, which is another real problem, and real issue in this field. So this is a possible model of the mechanisms, the cognitive mechanisms explaining why chess is beneficial. So chess involves planning when you've got to think of a move. It involves concentration. Involves very good balance between tactical and strategical aspects. All these chess-specific features are strongly related with domain general cognitive abilities such as concentration, planning, reasoning, spatial ability, and so on and so forth. These abilities are obviously related and correlated with academic achievement. So this is a realistic model. The point is that it has never been tested in control in any study. The only sparse evidence we had regards just a few studies finding mixed results and focusing especially on metacognition, which is quite interesting, but it's not enough to understand exactly the cognitive mechanisms, specific cognitive mechanisms underlying the effects of chess on academic achievement. Now, let's have a look at the two studies just presented by Mr. Jerim and Mr. Argentine. Let's start with the Romano-Argentine study. Romano and Argentine studies was a randomized control trial, which is positive. We had a chess group against a passive control group. So we, in this case, we cannot rule out the possibility of placebo effects because the chess group was not compared to an alternative activity to rule out placebo control groups and to rule out placebo effects. We found a positive effect of 25 or 30 hours of training immediately after the post-test, which is totally in line with the rest of the literature, with our meta-analysis. So there's no much to say about that. The additional interesting thing that they found a not significant effect after 2 years, 2 years after the treatment, which is actually not surprising, but this is a point I'll take up in a few minutes. Regarding Jerim and the colleagues' study, well, we had a randomized control trial. Still, we have chess group compared to passive control group. So still, this study does not say anything about potential placebo effects. We had no significant long-term effects in any of the disease tested. And this is apparently, at least, not in line with our meta-analysis. Actually, this is not surprising at all, because since there was not post-test effect, I mean, no immediate post-test effect recorded, we don't know exactly what happened immediately after the training, which is a flaw in this specific case. But let's also have a look at other possible reasons. Well, the first one, it's the one I just mentioned. The second one is that the test may have been too easy, which is a very serious one actually, because the mean of the performance in both groups was 70% with a standard deviation of 20%, which means basically that the chess group was supposed to do better than 70% in the math test, which is generally extremely unlikely because 70% is a very high level, probably much better than the mean, the average of the general population of children in the UK. So basically, we have two groups performing, the control group and the chess group, performing quite well in this test, which means basically that possible, but yeah, which is a likely possibility, that the effect was just the last lack of an effect was just a statistical artifact. So the test was not difficult enough to discriminate between the math abilities of the two groups. Another possibility is that the teaching method may have been good to teach chess skill rather than non-chess skills or math skills in particular, which is possible. I mean, teaching chess is not necessarily a good activity to teach math. In my opinion, at least, it is if it's possible to link the chess related activities, explicitly link the chess related activities to mathematical activities or mathematical concepts, okay, which is actually possible because chess is at least partly a mathematical game. Then we had also no effect on literacy and science scores, which is probably quite reasonable because actually I don't see why chess should be beneficial for literacy. Maybe for science, I don't know. There is no much evidence about that. But I don't know why for literacy there are two different activities. So chess is not a magic bullet. Chess can be beneficial to anything, to everything. Sorry, but yeah, we've got to make specific hypotheses to understand whether this is possible or not. And finally, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. It's quite unlikely that just 25 of 30 hours of training are enough to induce long-term effects. It's really unlikely, actually. So, that said, just a few reflections on this important topic. First, chess does exert an effect on academic achievement because all the literature goes towards that way. The real point is to understand whether this effect is due to placebo effects, okay, and if the duration of the effects is a long-term duration, or a medium-term duration, or a short-term duration. We just don't know because we had just two studies with a limited amount of time of training, so we really don't know much about the long-term effect of chess training, at least in children. We know much more about chess experts, but we don't know almost anything about children. Yeah, we know almost nothing about the cognitive mechanism underlying the effect of chess on non-chess skills, on academic skills. There are some theories, some hypotheses, and so on, but they are not well specified, and most importantly, they are not tested. They've never been tested, which is another important point the chess community and the researchers should address. Third, please do not expect long-term effects after just such short amount of time. 25 or 30 hours of training are just not enough to induce any kind of long-term effects. It's just naive to think so. It's just really extremely unlikely, because inducing long-term effects on high-level cognitive abilities is quite difficult. There is a lot of literature about that beyond chess, and so inducing such long-term effects probably requires years of training, not just 25 hours. And finally, just a bit of common sense. Do not be discouraged because of one single experiment going wrong, because one single experiment is just one single experiment, it's not the whole literature. Analogously, please don't be too optimistic about one single experiment going well. We've got to address specific points if we want to prove that chess is beneficial for academic achievement, children's academic achievement, and especially children's math skills. So, now a few ideas about future research. First of all, let's investigate the cognitive or even the neurocognitive mechanisms underlying chess skills. As I told you earlier, it's very difficult to get through far transfer, the problem of far transfer. It's very difficult to find that one activity improves abilities not related with other activities. It's possible, but not easy at all. So to understanding exactly what's happening in the mind of children when they play chess is absolutely necessary. Another possibility, another idea could be including different methods of chess instructions, and especially trying to link as much as possible chess and maths. So using chess-related activities, very close to maths concepts and maths activities. Since time seems to be an important factor for the effectiveness of chess treatment, it's important to manipulate that. We've got to manipulate the time. Basically, let's measure chess effectiveness after 50 hours of training, after 30, after 45, after 100 hours, just to understand what's the threshold, where is the threshold, and so on. And finally, let's focus also on non-cognitive abilities. For example, motivational aspects, such as fun, self-esteem, expectations, and so on, and mindset, which is something a bit more difficult to measure, but I think it could be quite interesting to do so. And thank you very much for listening, and if there is any question.
So would you say that in order to discuss whether or not chess is effective in primary education, one should only properly look at meta-studies and not at single studies, like the one that you mentioned of 24 that you and your colleagues have done? Is that the way to approach the subject?
Well, basically yes, but this is something applying to almost everything, almost every field in social sciences. There are false positives, there are false negatives. Every study differs to the others in some kind of aspects. So looking at one single study is most of the time very misleading. There is, in my opinion, just one case to consider in which meta-analyses are not better. Meta-analyses are not better than one single study, which is when that single study is better in terms of design than all the other studies, including included in a specific meta-analysis. That's probably the only case when meta-analysis is at, I would say, let's say at the same level of on a single experimental study. But this is not really the case. This is not really the case.
Thank you. I have one more question. Is there any research done on whether we can measure if chess in children improves resilience or makes them try harder or try again if they fail? And if yes, is there any research that connects these qualities to mathematical ability? Because from anecdotal evidence, let's say speaking to teachers and so on, one of the most common factors holding back otherwise smart children at maths specifically is that they give up too easily. So is there any way chess can be connected to it via this link of improving resilience?
Yeah, well, not to my knowledge actually. I mean, I don't think anybody has ever carried out such a study. Which is your point actually links to my very last point. Let's measure not only cognitive abilities, but which is totally fine, obviously and totally needed. But let's also focus on non-cognitive aspects. Resilience could be in one of these variables.
But is there a way to study that? Is my point, because you're saying there is no study, but can there be a study, or do you not? Can you envisage a way of carrying out such a study in theory?
Well, it's not really my cup of tea. Actually, it's not my part of my expertise. I do cognitive related studies, but I think so. I think you can measure it with some kind of standardized questionnaire. There are tons of standardized questionnaires, and I'm sure one of them, or more than one, measures that. I think so. But that's very interesting. I mean, well, thank you very much.